Welcome to another Dojo topic. Today we're going to be talking about rules. Do you ever think there are lots and lots of rules in life? And you wonder, who's making up all these rules? If you've ever asked yourself that, you might probably really enjoy this conversation today. So I am going to share my screen with you so that you can see what we talked about today. And you are invited to join us live every Tuesday. And if you cannot be here live, I'm so happy that you've discovered this video and are getting the benefit of this topic. Today's topic, or last week's topic, we talked about when money isn't money, and we were unmasking money symbols. So if you were not able to join us live or you have not yet seen the video, I will put a link to that video at the end of this video. And today's topic, though, we're talking about the rule book, that rule book of life, the games people play and why you play along. And we asked ourselves the question, if life is a game, where did we learn the rules? So life hands us a rule book the moment we arrive. Maybe it's not quite formed, it might just be kind of transparent. And the older we get, that rule book just gets firmer and more kind of set in stone. We didn't ask for it, we didn't write it, and yet for some reason we follow it, sometimes blindly. We learned the rules every time someone told us who we are, what's allowed, and what's expected of us. Everyone grows up absorbing rules about family, culture, society, school. We just know that this is what's expected, and we don't even question it. Many rules are unspoken and filled with expectations about behavior, success, relationships, and even emotions. Rules can create a push-pull in your relationships with who you are, what you want, or even what feels comfortable to you. You know, it's interesting growing up when I'm the oldest of five siblings. When we would get excited, my mom would always yell at us and say, "Hold your emotions, hold your emotions." We were not taught to embrace the emotions. We were taught to resist them, not to be demonstrative about them. And so that was different, right? That was a rule that I grew up with. That was a rule that now needed to be looked at when I became awake and aware and decided, hey, you know what? I want to do this inner work. I want to explore me. I want to know more about who I am. And when you do delve into that, you you are in a position of testing the rules, questioning the rules. And when you look at them as rules instead of beliefs, because sometimes it can be challenging to say, well, I have a belief about this. And then you wonder, like, well, how do I change this belief? How do I change this belief? And today in our live conversation, we talked a lot about that, the difference between calling it a belief and describing it as a rule. Because if it's a rule, that's something that can be changed. It can be something that can be defined or redefined. So when you start thinking about rules in your relationships or any area of your life, you start seeing how there's some wiggle room. And all you need is just this little bit of, oh, yeah, wiggle room. And then you just start making it bigger and bigger and bigger until those things that you were holding on to so tightly aren't held so tightly. Life can be a fun game to play when we remember not to personalize our experiences. But when something does feel personal, it often feels like a game we can never win. When life feels like a game we can never win, what game are we playing? And who determines the rules? Here are some of the games people play in life, specifically the ones that show up in manipulations, guilt, and subtle power dynamics. There's the guilt trip game, using guilt to control others. After everything I've done for you. Have you ever had someone say that? Or have you ever said that to someone else? You're trying to guilt them into the relationship. The martyr game, that poor me, It's that pity party we have for ourselves, playing the victim to get sympathy, attention, or to avoid responsibility. The blame game, pointing fingers to avoid accountability. It's your fault this happened. And I really like this picture because if you look at it, you're pointing at someone else, but you've got three fingers pointing back at you, don't you? Yes, you do. Then there's the rescuer game, stepping in to save others, even if nobody asks you to. This is a way to feel needed, wanted, important, worthy. The silent treatment game, withholding communication as punishment or manipulation. The approval seeker game, overgiving, people pleasing, or suppressing truth to stay liked. How about the yes, but game? Asking for advice, then rejecting every suggestion, keeping yourself and others stuck in frustration. That looks like, it's like, whoa, I could really use some help with this. And then someone interjects and someone says, hey, what about this? And you're like, yeah, but what about the power play game? Dominating conversations, decisions, or relationships just so you can feel in control. The gaslight game. We hear this a lot about people who are in a relationship with a narcissist, twisting reality to make someone feel doubt, maybe doubt their own memory, feelings, or judgment. The comparison game. Constantly measuring yourself against others to feel superior or inferior. The keeping score game. Hey, I did this for you. Now you owe me. You owe me big time. The drama triangle game, where there's the victim, the rescuer, and the persecutor, and cycling through these roles to create tension, chaos, and emotional entanglement. Then there's that passive aggressive game. Backhanded compliments, expressing anger indirectly, sarcasm, or procrastination. Maybe somebody will say, oh, isn't that nice? And you just know that's not what they really mean. It's that backhanded compliment. How about the perfectionist game? Using impossibly high standards as a shield against vulnerability. Then there's the deflection game, shifting the topic away from yourself, dodging responsibility, or uncomfortable truths. If you see yourself in any of these games, are you the participant or the one enforcing the rules? That is a really powerful question to ask yourself. When you recognize which role you're playing, ask yourself, where did I learn this game? What do I gain by playing it? And what do I gain by staying in the game? What's the cost of continuing to play along? Think about the games that people play, the manipulations and patterns we follow to get love, approval, or to avoid conflict. Recognizing the game exposes why we stay stuck or repeat the same patterns over and over and over. We play along out of fear, rejection, a desire to belong, habit, and conditioning. And we learn this in childhood, right? We want to belong. We don't want to be rejected. We want to feel like we're worthy, like we have something to contribute to life. But there's an energy drain from fighting invisible rules versus the freedom of awareness. Awareness alone can shift your participation in the game. Once you see the game, you'll play it differently by breaking free and choosing to respond instead of reacting automatically. I mean, after all, who told you that you were broken, incomplete, or that you could ever lack for anything? Do you even know whose rule book this was being taught from? The rules are changing all the time based on the reality you're living in. So, how can you possibly believe there's only one set of rules? And if you want more information about reality, go back a couple weeks ago when we talked about reality. All of these videos, week after week, they're all building on each other. They each stand alone, but they each build on each other. You can go back and look at, what does that mean? What is the reality that I'm living in right now? Isn't there only one reality? No, there isn't. And if there's not just one reality, again, how can you possibly believe there's only one set of rules? This is an excellent time to remember that there's contrast in everything we do, including games. Now let's pause and reflect a minute. Which draining game do you catch yourself playing most often? What's the payoff that you've been unconsciously seeking in that game? Which empowering game could you consciously switch to instead? Instead of playing a draining game, switch to an empowering game. Remember, there's contrast in everything. How would your life feel if you only played by your new rule book? So let's take a look at a side-by-side chart showing the draining games versus the empowering games. This will give you a visual contrast for awareness and choice. Now, I'm not going to read these to you. You can pause the video here and just take a look at them. But this will give you an idea of seeing the contrast. We'll just take the first one. Instead of the guilt trip game, switch to the gratitude game. And as you go through these and you think about these one by one, you can see that there's always a way to get a new perspective about what you think is happening. So take some time, pause the video right here and look at these. If life is a game, then the rules we follow shape every arena of our lives. The arena of relationships, of money, of health, of spirituality. So think about relationships. Many of us have learned to play by rules of guilt, approval seeking, or people pleasing. These rules may have kept us safe once, but they often block intimacy and truth. When we choose new rules like presence, appreciation, and curiosity, we create relationships that feel free, alive, and deeply connected. Then there's money. Rules around scarcity, working hard, or not deserving more keep us trapped in the game of lack. By shifting to rules of gratitude, receiving, and possibility, money becomes not just a tool, but a reflection of worthiness and flow. What about health? Old rules often teach sacrifice, neglect, or ignoring the body's wisdom. New rules honor rest, joy, movement, and nourishment, playing the game of vitality instead of survival. And then, of course, there's spirituality. For many, spirituality was bound by rules of fear, shame, or unworthiness. There's even the difference, knowing the difference or defining the difference between spirituality and religion. Some people get those very confused. When we rewrite the rules to awareness, forgiveness, and vision, spirituality becomes a game of expansion, not limitation. The truth is, you don't have to play by the rules you inherited. You get to choose the games you play and rewrite the rule book at any time. So what did you think? Did you see yourself in any of these games? This would be a great time to go back and look at each of those games that I listed and ask yourself, where do I find myself showing up in this? How is this limiting me? Or how is this propelling me forward? You can even ask yourself, am I playing games with other people that I maybe have an opportunity to stop playing those games, to be more compassionate, to be more loving, more kind? Am I playing those games where I am creating lack in my life? If you recognize yourself in any of these, this is your opportunity to make some changes. Stop playing by those inherited rules. If you want any kind of support with this, visit me at masteringyourbeliefs.com. In the meantime, this is Nancy Muller, the one and only Life Sensei, saying ciao for now.